Well, welcome to Murdock Manwaring Company's Just the Stats. We are going over the stats for January 2023, starting out this first year, and there's some interesting stuff going on. So let's get in it and let's get started on checking out what it is that we've got to offer. By the way, if you want to receive these every month in your email, you can go to mmcidaho.com, and at the top it says get our newsletter, and you'll get this and a few other fun tips in your email. And give us a call if we can help you buy or sell a home. Jeremy, let's talk about, oh, by the way, we are doing 4 sections. And so if you're wondering what is entailed in this video, we're going to do an overview of the stats. Then we have a little snapshot of the month. Let's look at our current inventory. And then let's look at the city of Idaho Falls as a microscope, because all of the stats generally come from our 3 counties, Bonneville County, Jefferson County, and Bingham County. All right, Jeremy.
Let's get into it. Let's get right to one of the doesn't look like my controls are working.
There you go. You're in.
All right. So look at this January over January. Last year, 2022, there was 203 homes sold. This year, 127. That's a decrease of almost 40% of the number of homes. Activity is decreasing a little bit. We've been hearing about it, and now we're seeing it, right? On how much activity is slowed down. So let's look at the price points again. There's only, the handful over 500,000 has gone way down. There were way more transactions last year over 500,000. Now the majority lies below 500,000. And you can see the days on the market as well over 500,000 is much bigger than under 500,000. So we'll dive deep into why that's important. But average price per square foot, this is an interesting stat here, because last year on average we were getting 173. This year 155. Now that's just the month of January, so it's not telling us a ton, but it does say last year some of those higher price homes sold, and with the better features maybe and more price per foot, but we could be seeing a trend. So we want to keep an eye on that, because that is an $18 a square foot decrease in the price that month. So we'll keep an eye on that.
I also think that as we saw that breakdown of solds, if you're not getting as much land, when you get more land, that higher price point comes up. So that might also affect our per square foot, because that really drives that up.
That's a good point. And outbuildings and shops, those types of things, that can play a factor in there. So we want to watch the average over time, and also get real on the house itself. But
and I think it's just showing that the government's reduction of rates or increase of rates to try to reduce inflation, well, it's working. We're seeing it in every part of the country.
That is a good point. And last year, January, our average price was $413. This year, $376, and that's almost a 9% decrease in our average price. So we could be seeing a trend. We don't know for sure this year. It feels like things are still moving, and think people are still buying homes, and but we're not seeing the increase anymore year over year, 30+%. So let's move to what people are listing for compared to what they're getting. Last year, you could get pretty much what you had listed your house for. This year in January, you list for, let's just use 100,000, you can expect to get 92,000. And I think that's a telling factor of knowing the market. Whatever you list your house at, we're not seeing a 30% increase. And so you got to get real on our beginning list price, because this is showing that it may be at the same level as last year or a bit less, because we're seeing a decrease in list to sold percentage. Let's go to average days on market, because that's our leading.
Can I say something about that?
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
So sellers just aren't getting the prices that they were listing for last year. The market isn't necessarily in a downturn, and so if you bought your house 3 years ago, you're still sitting great. So it's not indicative of every house in the market, and that every single seller has lost has lost 7% in equity. Just you're not getting what people sold for last year. And what has happened in the last couple of years in the market was not sustainable. And that's why the rates were raised, which is great because then it helps level the market out so that we don't head towards like a major crash that, you know, that would affect values even more. And so
that's a great point. And that really, that's not even saying that we're not getting what we got last year. It's just the ask price. And so I think people are still anticipating more and more, but the market's saying not this year, not yet. So we got to get real and possibly price at or below last year's prices to get things to move. One of the leading indicators we keep an eye on is average days on market. That's going to tell us if a home's listed and it's still listed 60 days later, it means that the inventory is increasing, and as inventory increases, and the demand doesn't change or goes down a little bit, then it has that inverse relationship. So the longer things are listed, the more inventory could stack up, which could push pricing down. And so we're seeing an average in January of double what it was last year. So that is an interesting one that we're keeping an eye on as well, because if we get to that 6 month markets, it's more balanced, 4 to 6 months. Here's the stats from years past. If you look at 2017, we just surpassed 2017. And that's when the market really started to get tight. And you see the days on market go down to the lowest at 23 there last 2021. And so we're not 180 days on the market, but we are 60. So we're trending in that direction.
I think that gets us, we are normalizing. We are getting back to a normal market, as you can see in 2017.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Great point, Jess, because this feels long to us because of the market we've been in the last couple of years, but this is very normal for, you know, amount of days. And guess what? Sellers, I know that might sound terrible, but when you're going to buy a house, it gives you more time to look and it gives you more options. In the last couple of years, we're very stressful for shopping, and this allows you to, you know, take more time and make your decisions with a little bit more thought process, and good.
Yep.
We don't usually advocate for normal, but in this case, it's good to be in a normal market, because the extreme sides, you know, it always will bite you one way or another.
Somebody feels the pressure in the extreme sides, one or the other. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, speaking of that, a lot of the people kind of wonder, are we in an overpriced market? That's what everyone's worried about. Are we in an overpriced market? Well, as we look and took a look at those at original list price to what it actually sold for, let's talk about what makes it overpriced. So we use the kind of the middle of the road house in Southeast Idaho. It runs from 2,400 square feet to 3,000. You get 2 or a 3-car garage. You've got at least a quarter of an acre up to a half an acre, and you've got at least 2 bathrooms. That's the middle of the road. That's the bulk of our market here in East Idaho. Well, in January, that price per square foot was $132 per square foot, and 11 homes in January under those parameters sold. So then if we take a look at the next level of, okay, what does it mean in a more current market? Well, if we look at the pending sales, now we don't know what the closed sale is. We just know what they needed to get to in price, whether it was reductions or price right from the beginning, to get an offer written. And that's sitting at $141 per square foot. And we've got 19 of those homes sitting out there. So will they have to, by the time we find a sold price, will they be down more near 132? Or is that price going up in the pendings? But here's the kicker. Looking at listings on the market is what's overpriced. We have 16 homes that are actively sitting, not selling, and they're sitting at, on average, $152 per square foot. So what really is a hard part for some sellers to realize, if they don't look at their specific home, their criteria in this way, they may be sitting out there waiting for 152 when all of the data says you've got to be at least 141 to get an offer, and you're probably going to end up selling at 132. So we may have homes out there $52,000 overpriced in this criteria, hoping their home will sell.
This is basically the cheat sheet for if your home's not selling. Jess is sharing the cheat sheet to sell in your house.
Yeah. When we talk about what should a seller decide on to list their home, this is how we look at it. And then you decide where I want to be in there. But these are the results. So $52,000 on this home, which is probably running you right in that middle $420,000 range. That's a big jump down. It means you've got somebody out there who's probably sitting at 480, hoping for 480, but they're probably going to sell at 420, 430. So that's a little idea of what is the truth of overpriced in Southeast Idaho. So let's kind of go over just
Jessica,
a little.
I just have a quick question on that last
Sure.
slide for you. So can you give me an idea of what the average increase of equity was over the last couple of years? Because I'm just wondering, is that 52,000? Is that putting people in an upside down position, or have they gained more equity than that, and they're just hoping that they could have got last year's numbers, but they would still come out ahead? Just kind of curious about that.
Yeah. So if we look at this home is kind of the middle of the road. And when we looked at our average sale price of this back in January and the end of 2022 and 2021 December, you're probably sitting at 470, 480 for this home. And now you're sitting a little bit more toward that 420, 430 range. So if you bought in that high peak, you probably are feeling this pretty significantly. But back you go a couple years ago, we were more toward 420, even 400 a couple of years ago. When you're in 2021, maybe 2020, it started to creep up. So it kind of depends on how long you've been on the market. But if you purchased in the last couple of years, you're feeling this pinch for sure.
Got it. Good to know.
Yep.
But people who bought several years ago still have plenty of equity.
Still plenty of equity. Yep. If you bought over 2 years ago, you're probably got enough to sell and still make it work. Yep. And make a little money.
Cool.
So let's take a look at a little quick snapshot of the month. What kind of activity happened? So we had 236 homes that actually came on the market in Bonneville, Bingham, and Jefferson County. That's actually 22% down over how many homes came on the market last month. So that's versus December versus January. So a slowing on actually inventory entering the market. The average list price of those homes that came on the market are $459, which is a little above what our average closed sale price is. And when we took a look at this actual price, they were sitting at about 0.4%. They've already lowered their prices about 0.4% from when they started to come on the market to now. So 203 homes went pending, which means they were active and they came to an agreement with a buyer, and they went under contract and they are a pending sale. So we actually gained a little inventory because we have 236 come on, 203 came off. So we gained about 33 homes in active inventory. Now, this is an interesting stat. 36 homes fell apart, which means they were in that pending status. They were under contract with a buyer and seller, and they fell apart and they came back active. We had 36 of those homes come back on the market in January. So I used to put a percentage on there, but it's not really, you don't know, because they could have gone pending anytime. But that gives us an indication. At one point, we were a little more in the 90 range. So it's nice to see this coming down to that 36%, or that 36 rather than a higher number. Homes withdrawing, and this means that they decided, you know what, I'm giving up. I'm taking it off the market. I've decided that I'm not going to sell, and I'm taking it off. 69 homes withdrew in January. Their average days on market of those homes were 107. So they've been sitting for 107 days before they said, nope, I'm done. Their average price per square foot, 171. If we think back of what those homes were selling for on the average price per square foot, you can see why maybe they gave up. Maybe they gave up because we were at 155 average price per square foot on our average sold. And so the original list price to what they finally were at when they withdrew, they came down 6.3% and still decided they weren't going to get the money they wanted. So if we compared these to the average homes that were selling, they were about $50,000 off price, and they weren't willing to come down, so they withdrew from the market. The next one is what's called expireds. So this means they had been under contract with an agent listing, and they let that contract completely go to the term of the contract, and that contract expired. So they didn't necessarily pull it off the market. The contract just ended. They may come back on the market, or they may, with the same agent, or try a different agent. 61 of those homes expired in January. Their average days on market were 154. And that average price per square foot, 188. And they were already down about 90% of what they originally started at when they finally expired. So they'd come down about 10%, but still didn't get an offer before their contract ran out. So that's a kind of an interesting little stat on the movement and what's going on inside of the market. Chad, why don't you talk to us about the inventory?
Yeah, let's look at current inventory and where we're kind of sitting. So currently on the market, we have 428 homes. Last month, there were 461. So we're down 7.2%. And of those, we're having average days on market of about 87. Obviously, with active homes on the market, that's going to be higher days on market than ones that actually sell. And combined days on market is 107 days. Original list price to current price is 96.8%. Again, we're seeing that higher because they haven't sold. The ones that are selling are the ones that are being a little more aggressive, with an average price per square foot of $186, almost $187, which is over $30 more a foot than the ones that are selling, which puts us still right in a strong seller's market. You know, the sky is not falling. We are in a strong seller's market, 3.37 months, and we'd much rather be in this type of market than we were before when we had days of absorption rate. Now we have months of absorption rate. It's like it's just a healthier way to do it. As far as the look of our current inventory goes, under 500,000, we have 248 homes, and we're seeing, I mean, that $200,000 to $500,000 is our strong number. Of the ones that sold last month, as we saw before, 90% of the homes that are selling are in that $200,000 to $500,000 range, and that's where we're seeing the most. But we still have quite a lot of inventory. The $1 million plus, we're starting to see that back away a little bit. It's a softer market, but there's still quite a bit to choose from in the $500,000+ mark, which we would recommend that if you're looking for a deal, that's where you're going to find the deal. That's where it's above the average sales price. That's where homes are sitting. You look at the days on market, those are sitting for a while. So if you're going to do a lowball offer, that's going to be your best shot at trying to hit somebody that's got 3 months plus of being on the market. As far as overall pendings, we have 257 pendings. The average sales price of the pendings is $424,000. Original price to current price was 96.4%, and the average price per square foot of 165, almost 166, and average days on market of 63 days. So we're we see the pending numbers line up a little bit more with the sold, but the actives are always quite a bit higher. So when we look at okay, let's go into the snapshot of Idaho Falls. We have one slide left, and this is when we define Idaho Falls, we are looking within the 5 boundaries of the 5 local high schools: Idaho Falls, Skyline, Thunder Ridge, Bonneville, and Hillcrest. So in Idaho Falls, homes sold in January were 90. That was down 8.2%. Average days on market, 61. And original list is sold, 91.8. So we're seeing some of these numbers similar to our numbers from the 3 counties. Homes on the market, 261, with average days on market of 85. Original list to current, 96.8%, and absorption rate of 2.9 months. So again, it's a little bit tighter in the Idaho Falls market, but overall, it's a pretty similar market between the city of Idaho Falls, as we define it, and with the Bingham, Bonneville, and Jefferson County markets. So anyway, I don't know if there's any other stats we want to share. Anything? I mean, I will say that we saw yesterday, the January inflation rate is dropped down to 6.5. So we've had a number of months now. Inflation rate, we're really wanting to see that get to 4.5. We're on pace of seeing that probably around June. And once we get to 4.5, that's when we're going to see things loosen up a little bit. But we're going to stay tight until we get to that 4.5. But to go from 9 to 6.5, we're definitely going in the right pace. So anything else anybody wants to add?
That's it. I think it's still a great time to sell a home and buy a home.
Right.
The spring rush has begun. So it is the time. If you could get your house on the market quickly, it's a good time before the flood of people who didn't want to move in the winter are showing up to get their house on the market.
Well, yeah, my buyer just, we ended up in a multiple offer situation yesterday. And I actually saw that again a couple of weeks ago, which you wouldn't think would happen in this market. But if you list when there are less listings, it's just basic supply and demand and what you're listing against competition wise. And so if you want to list and it doesn't make a difference to you to list between now and the summer, call us right now, because you might be able to get more right now than you will later. So,
well, and if you kind of follow Jessica's hack of where you need to be price wise, and if you have 3 people that price in the same area, they're obviously standouts, and you're going to get multiple offers. But you got to learn how to work. You got to know the market. So,
That's
all right.
Thanks.
That's
Yeah,
it. Thanks, you
thanks,
guys. See
everybody.
everybody next month.
All right.